Hello everyone. Rent increases, they're a hot topic in today's ever-changing housing market, aren't they? With the cost of living on the rise, property values climbing, and demand for rentals staying strong across Utah, both landlords and tenants are navigating some tricky waters. Landlords want to know, how much can I raise the rent without crossing any lines? And tenants, what rights do you have to protect against unexpected increases? I'm Nick Jensen from NV Property Management, based here in northern Utah. With years of experience managing properties in places throughout the Wasatch Front, I haven't seen it all, but I've seen a lot. Today we're diving deep into Utah's rent control laws, notice requirements, and several key factors to consider and tips for keeping everything fair and legal. Whether you're a property owner maximizing your investment or a renter planning your budget, this guide will arm you with the facts. Let's get started and break it down step by step. Let's start with the basics. Does Utah have rent control? The short answer is no. Unlike cities in states like California or New York, where strict caps limit how much rents can go up each year, Utah doesn't have any statewide rent control policies. This gives landlords a lot of flexibility to adjust rents based on market conditions, property improvements, and economic shifts. But what exactly is rent control? It's a set of government regulations capping annual rent increases, sometimes to just a few percent. In Utah, without these restrictions, you're free to set rents that reflect the true value of your property. However, this freedom does come with some responsibilities. You still must adhere to Federal Fair Housing Act laws, which prevent discrimination based on race, religion, family status, disability, or other protected categories. Plus, local ordinances in some Utah cities might have their own nuances, so always check those too. This approach promotes a dynamic market, but it also emphasizes fairness and transparency to avoid disputes. Now the big question, how much can landlords raise the rent in Utah? Since there's no rent control, there's technically no limit on the amount you can increase rent once a lease expires. You could raise it by 5%, 10%, or even more if the market supports it, like in booming areas around Salt Lake or Ogden where demand outpaces the supply. But timing and notice are everything. For month-to-month tenants, Utah state law mandates that you give at least 15 days written notice before the increase takes effect. This isn't just a courtesy, it's required to give renters time to adjust their budgets, negotiate, or find new housing if needed. However, as a good landlord, you should give tenants more than just a 15-day notice. The more notice they have, the easier it will be for them to transition. And at NV Property Management, we strive to give at least a 60-day notice whenever possible. So imagine having a good tenant in a high-demand spot. You want to make sure that they understand when rent is increases, and they deserve the heads up as much as possible. For fixed-term leases, such as a standard 12-month agreement, you typically can't increase rent mid-term unless your lease includes a specific clause allowing it. For example, this could be tied to inflation, major repairs, or HOA increases. But in most cases, you'll need to wait until the renewal time. And here's a pro tip. If you're a landlord and you're signing a multi-year lease, build in escalation clauses for future flexibility. But make sure they're clear in order to avoid any surprises. And tenants, always read your lease carefully. Those details matter, and you want to know exactly what you're agreeing to. Providing proper notice isn't just a courtesy, it's your shield against legal troubles. Always do it in writing, with email, certified mail, or even a secured tenant portal. Skip verbal agreements, they don't hold up. A strong notice should cover these 4 must-haves. The first is the effective date. Be specific regarding the date the rent increase takes effect. For example, don't say the first of next month. Say the exact month, day, and year, like March 1st, 2026. Second, the new rent amount. You want to be precise. Say something like rent will increase from $1,200 to $1,350 per month. Third, remind tenants of their rights, such as the option to renew, negotiate terms, or vacate without penalty if they disagree. And then fourth, set a clear deadline for their response, maybe 10 days to keep things moving forward. If you get this wrong, you could face delayed payments, tenant grievances, filed with local housing authorities, or even small claims court. The key is clear communication builds trust. I've seen it turn potential conflicts into long-term tenancies. So before deciding on that rent increase, pause and evaluate key factors to make sure it's sustainable. Start with the market demand. In northern Utah, where job growth from tech and manufacturing is drawing families, high occupancy rates means that you can aim higher without vacancies. But in slower areas, keep it modest in order to retain your good tenants. And then next, consider property improvements. If you've sunk a bunch of money into upgrades like energy efficient windows, fresh paint, or new flooring, That can boost the value and justifies a bump in rent. So for example, a $5,000 kitchen remodel could support a $50 or $100 monthly increase. And then don't overlook inflation and economic pressures. Rising property taxes, insurance, and maintenance costs eat into your profits. Currently, Utah's inflation has hovered around 3 to 5% lately, so factor that in to stay ahead as well. It's much better for you as a landlord and for the tenants to have consistent increases over time than to fall way below market rates and then have to make a large increase all at once. So finally, stay on top of local laws. Cities like Salt Lake might have subtle rules on habitability or anti-gouging during emergencies. When researching, you can research via Utah's Division of Real Estate, or you can consult a professional in order to avoid any pitfalls. And then while Utah's system favors owner flexibility, it's all about balance with tenant rights. Always comply with the Fair Housing Act to ensure no discriminatory practices are sneaking in. And then beyond rent, think about security deposits. Utah doesn't cap them, so you might charge between 1 and 2 months rent, but you're going to want to detail the refund conditions in the lease in order to prevent disputes. So state things like the deductions for cleaning or damages. Rent payments matter too. Specifically spell out due dates, grace periods, and late fees up front. This clarity reduces eviction and fosters loyalty. Remember, happy tenants mean lower turnover costs. Strong relationships can cut your vacancies by about 20%. So ask yourself the question, are you handling rent adjustments, notices, and all these details on your own? It can be a full-time job, especially with multiple units across Utah. At NV Property Management, we take the hassle out of it. We dive into local market data to recommend smart competitive increases, ensuring you're not leaving money on the table, but you're also not pricing out quality tenants. In summary, Utah's lack of rent control offers great opportunities, but success comes from smart, ethical strategies. Provide those notices, weigh the factors, and prioritize balance. It's the key to profitable, drama-free rentals. If we can help you, reach out to us at NV Property Management by visiting our website at nvpm.com or call us at 801-337-4337.